I won't beat about the bush. We've had all your test results back, and one of them looks like it's going to be positive for HIV. Out of the corner of my eye, I see my husband's hands fly up to cover his face. It is possibly the most gut-wrenchingly upsetting thing I have ever seen. It's the 26th of June 2017, the day my life changed forever. Did you know the man who owns the little shop down the road has got AIDS? I say, aged 12, it's 1986. My mother looks utterly scandalised. He shouldn't be handling people's food, she says. I hadn't even reached the punchline yet. Cherryade, Orangeade, Lucasade, I pipe up. My mother doesn't laugh. She just looks relieved and a bit cross with me. Will I lose my dignity? Will someone care? Will I wake tomorrow from this nightmare? Will I lose my dignity? Will I lose my dignity? Will someone care? Will someone care? Will I wake tomorrow? Will I wake someone care? Will I wake tomorrow from this nightmare? It's 1988, and I'm sitting in the box at the Shaftesbury Theatre watching the Broadway transfer of Jonathan Larson's Rent. Tears are streaming down my face. You're a fucking poof, you're going to get AIDS and die. 1988. Another day of bullying to get through. I'm 14. I close my eyes and go somewhere else. It's the only way to make it stop. 1987. I'm watching my television. Our large ginger and white tomcat is fast asleep on my lap. On screen, a massive volcano erupts. Fire, smoke and rubble fly up into the sky and tumble down the sides of the shaking mountain. The sound of the explosion is deafening. A man with a pneumatic drill works to free a large slab of granite from the debris. Throughout the following voiceover, he's seen chilling capital letters onto its surface. There is now a danger that has become a threat to us all. It is a deadly disease and there is no known cure. The virus can be passed during sexual intercourse with an infected person. Anyone can get it, man or woman. So far, it's been confined to small groups, but it's spreading. The now completed tombstone stands erect. Ominous mist swirls around it. The chiselled letters scream from the polished surface, AIDS! The voiceover continues. So protect yourself. The tombstone topples backwards. And read this leaflet when it arrives. If you ignore AIDS, it could be the death of you. So don't die of ignorance. A funereal bouquet of white flowers lands on the fallen tombstone, issued by the health departments of the United Kingdom. Our cat leaps from my lap and runs under the stairs. June 2017. My fingertip is throbbing slightly from the recent prick and squeeze assault, and the single solitary ruby-esque drop of blood, all that my cold and nervous finger would give up this time, has been dipped into the testing solution. As always, my heart starts pounding in my chest. As I strain to see into the little dish on the health advisor's desk, what if? I've been going through this same routine once or twice every year for 20 years or so, and it never gets easier. Even though I know I've always taken care, always used protection, and always looked after myself in terms of my sexual health. What if? What if the absolute worst thing were to actually happen? What if I'm just about to be told I have HIV? What then? The health worker smiles. It's all good, he says. As always, the sense of relief is overwhelming and almost brings me to tears, and the urge to hug him is strong. And then, almost imperceptibly, the light in the room changes. It's subtle, but there's a brownish red tint to the fluorescent lights that I could have sworn wasn't there before. The health worker has turned his back to me, and I notice that his shoulders are moving up and down. I frown, trying to work out what's going on. He's laughing, I suddenly realise. The health worker spins around in his chair and fixes his eyes on mine. There's no warmth there. The handsome, flirty twinkle with which he had welcomed me into the room was gone, and in its place, an entirely different kind of grin, mirthless and malevolent, turns that once attractive, kind smile into a grimacing, demonic sneer. That's the last time anyone's ever going to tell you that, he rasps at me. That's the last negative test result you'll ever get. No! I shout back at him. No! I've managed to get this far. I'll always take precautions. He starts to laugh again and stands up from his chair, looming over me like some terrifying monster from a horror film. It's too late, he says. You can't change the past. What's done is done and can't be undone. But it can't be too late. You said the result was negative. And so it is, he said. But that doesn't mean it's true. Nathan? Nathan? Nathan! Go away. Leave me alone. What are you doing in here on your own? It's dark. Come on, open your eyes. Let some light in. I don't want to. They'll see me and it'll start all over again. They won't ever stop. They've gone. How do you know? I know. You're safe now. What if they're waiting for me? You don't need to worry about them anymore. They wait for me outside the school gates every day. Why would today be any different? Everything is different now. You don't know what it's like. Every single day I have to walk past them on my way home from school. They shout at me and call me things, ugly things, things that aren't true. You don't have any idea what it's like to be me. My stomach always hurts. It hurts so much just from being frightened all the time. Frightened of them? Or are you frightened that what they say might be true? What? Why do you say that? What do you mean? You know what I mean. How could you know that? Yes. That's what I'm most afraid of. I don't want to be that thing they call me. And what is it they call you? What is that thing they call you? You said you knew. I do know. Then I don't have to say it. Then I'll say it for you. No, please don't! They call you gay. How could you know that? Who are you? Nathan. I'm you. Or I was. And you're me. Or at least, you will be. I don't understand. You don't need to. Not yet. But you will. Why are you here? I'm here because I love you. I'm here because you don't yet. I'm here to tell you that it takes a while and there are going to be some pretty major bumps along the way, but you'll get there. You'll get here, where I am now. And I'm here to tell you that it's worth it. Really worth it. So I am that thing. Say it. I don't want to. It's the first step. Say it. So I am gay, then? Yes. And are they right about the other thing? What other thing? Am I going to die of AIDS? Come with me. Open your eyes. I want to show you something. Where are we? This is Dr. Chappell's office. It's the 26th of June, 2017. 2017? We must be really old. You know, I'm going to be 26 in the year 2000. Yes, I know. I remember. So you really are? Yes, I really am you. Who's that over there? That's Benjamin. Your husband. Husband? That's right. You get married on the first day same-sex marriage becomes legal in England and Wales.
Wow, that's massive!
It will be. And what's more, you're going to do it on national television in the form of a film musical that you write together. Oh, and you're going to be nominated for a BAFTA for it as well.
Wait, what?
I told you. Things are going to be very different when we're older. Try not to get sidetracked.
Why does he look so sad?
He's been very worried.
Why?
We've been, that is, you and me, we've been very ill for a number of weeks.
And is that Dr. Chappell?
Yes, listen, he's about to deliver some news. I will never forget the words that Dr. Chappell said to me that day. I had never been so ill in my life. The nausea, the aching muscles, the 14-day migraine, the fever, the night sweats, the delirium, the fleeting rash over half of my body, the lack of appetite, and, the fatigue. I was only out of bed for about 4 hours each day, all of which were spent lying on the sofa, too tired to even knit.
Hang on. You knit?
We've got a lot of catching up to do. Benjamin bullied me to go to the hospital. They told me it was just a virus and I should go home, get plenty of rest, take lots of fluids, and I would be fine in a few days.
But you weren't.
No, I wasn't.
This all sounds really horrible. I don't want to go through any of that. This isn't making me feel better at all.
Don't be scared. I'm not going to lie. It's really unpleasant, but you'll get through it. It's not going to kill you.
How do you know for sure?
I'm here talking to you, aren't I?
So you say. But this might all be just some kind of weird dream.
Isn't that true of everything in life? Anyway, Dr. Chappell took my condition a bit more seriously than the hospital had. He ordered some investigative blood tests and they showed raised markers for liver function. He called me at home and he said he wanted to order another set of tests, this time looking at some more specific things. He said he wanted to check for hepatitis, glandular fever, and this is where he showed his true skills as a doctor. He said, I know you've just had a negative HIV test, but I want to do another one to make sure. I think you already knew.
No. You mean everything the bullies said, all that stuff about dying of AIDS, it's all true?
Just wait. And so there I was, sitting in his surgery with Benjamin sitting on the other side of the room, waiting to hear the news of my results. Half a mile away, at my flat, my mother was baking a cake in my kitchen. She had decided to come and visit her poorly son and help out a bit around the house because I was so unwell, and because, as a mother, she can't help herself. My phone had bleeped a message alert, and I went into the bedroom to listen to it. Hello, Nathan, it's Dr. Chappell. We've had your test results back. Could you give me a call as soon as you get this message? Actually, can you come into the surgery right away? You don't have to make an appointment or anything like that. Just tell reception you're here, and I'll see you immediately. It was serious then. I won't beat about the bush. We've had all your test results back, and one of them looks like it's going to be positive for HIV. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my husband's hands fly up to cover his face. It was definitely the most gut-wrenchingly upsetting thing I have ever seen. In that instant, the script had changed. Irrevocably and undeniably, my story was now on a different path entirely. I leant forward slightly and looked Dr. Chappell in the eye. Okay, I said. So what do I need to do now? Walking back from the surgery towards our car so that we could drive to a specialist HIV clinic and get me registered for care, I turned to Benjamin and I said, you know, I'm not going back into another closet for anyone. And so it began. My positive life. I spent the next few months greedily researching everything I could find out about the virus now living inside my body. Call it a coping mechanism if you like. I'm sure that's what it was. Shine a light into all the dark corners and there's nowhere for the monsters to hide. But I became fascinated. HIV is one remarkable little organism. I developed a very healthy respect for what I later started referring to as my lodger. But even more remarkable are the leaps and bounds that have been made in the treatment of HIV over the 36 years since the virus was first identified.
You mean we're not going to die from it?
No, we're not.
How come?
Because of the medicine I take, you'll take. From that day onwards, you're going to take 3 little tablets at 10 o'clock every morning. You'll take them every day for the rest of your life, but the rest of your life is likely to be as long and as healthy as it would have been if you had never caught HIV. Those little tablets control the levels of HIV in your blood to such an extent that it becomes undetectable.
What does that mean?
It means having a viral load that is lower than 50. The viral load is the number of copies of the HIV virus in every milliliter of my blood. If the viral load is lower than 50, today's tests can't find it. It is literally undetectable. To put that in context, when we were first diagnosed, my viral load was 295,121. Less than 10 weeks after I started treatment, it was less than 50. Undetectable.
And why is that so important?
Having an undetectable viral load is important for 2 reasons. Firstly, it means that there isn't enough active HIV in my body for it to ever do me any harm. I will never get sick from it. It will never cause more damage to my system, and it will never progress onto AIDS.
Really?
Really. As long as I take our tablets every day, you'll be fine.
What's the second reason?
This is the one we need to shout out far and wide to get as many people to hear it as possible.
What is it?
Undetectable equals untransmittable. You equals you. Someone with an undetectable viral load is incapable of passing it on to anyone else through sexual contact. Incapable. There has never been a case where someone with a sustained undetectable viral load has infected another person through sexual contact. One of the reasons that HIV is the subject of such dreadful stigma is fear. People have always been frightened of people with HIV because they're scared that they will get it too and then die of AIDS. Neither of those things needs to be true these days, and in our case, they're not.
Is that really true?
Yes. And yet most people still don't know that. The U equals message is one of the most powerful stigma reduction tools ever, and it's backed up with watertight science. Getting the word out there can be tricky, but it needs to be done. Give people the facts of today instead of the fears of yesterday, and no one needs to be afraid of anyone finding out about their status. That will change a lot of people's lives for the better.
And what about your life? Our life?
Well, I became very active at the Bloomsbury Network, the patient support group at the clinic where I get my HIV care. And it wasn't long before I was invited to join the steering committee of the network, which you are still, very proudly, a member. Just 5 months after my diagnosis, on the 1st of December 2017, World AIDS Day, I went very public about my status, sharing my HIV story with all my family and friends on Facebook, and with a much wider audience still via my podcast on YouTube. That day, I think I came out to about 20,000 people. Some of my close friends were worried for me. But Nathan, you have your livelihood to think of. What if people react badly and don't want to have anything to do with you anymore and stop buying your patterns and coming to your classes? I wasn't scared though. In fact, I was eager. I couldn't wait. I felt I had been given an incredible opportunity. I had all this knowledge, and I also had a large platform from which to share it. The people who watched my podcast and liked my Instagram posts were not necessarily the demographic who would have kept up to date with the latest knowledge of HIV, or the advances in medicine that make our situation so vastly different from what it would have been 32 years ago when my cat sensed my fear, brought on by that falling tombstone, and fled from my lap. But more than that, I knew in my heart that while they probably came to my podcast for the knitting, if they came back, it was because they liked me and had over time got to know me as a person, or even as a friend. I wasn't just some faceless, nameless person telling them slightly uncomfortable things about gay sex. I was a friend, sharing an important aspect of my life's journey with them. I had a chance to reach people and maybe change a few minds along the way. After my announcement, I spent the next 3 days pretty much constantly weeping as I read the nearly 700 messages of love and support that came into my inbox in waves. It was utterly overwhelming. I have never felt so loved. One lady on Instagram simply wrote, "I started following your posts because I wanted to become a better knitter." I had no idea they would make me a better person. I consider that alone to be enough. The following June, I was asked to speak at a forum held at my clinic in front of an audience made up exclusively of people living with HIV for a discussion about disclosure. I was there because I had disclosed my status in such a public way, and it had been a very positive experience for me. Many people are still terrified of telling their loved ones that they have HIV because of the stigma, fear, shame that still surrounds the subject. I listened to my fellow panelists. These were not just people living with HIV. These were people living well with HIV. One, Winnie from Uganda, HIV positive for 30 years and now an advocate for preventing HIV around the world, said, "If I find out that someone has a negative response to hearing I have HIV, I say to them, honey, you have to deal with your issues. I've dealt with mine." Another, Amanda from Milton Keynes, a fitness instructor with bright blue hair, positive for nearly a decade, said something else that hit home with me. We are always described as people living with HIV. Well, I'm not living with HIV. It's living with me. My house, my rules. Their stories and enthusiasm for life were enormously inspiring and made me feel incredibly proud to be sitting there with them, so close to the start of my HIV journey, while they blazed bright trails ahead of me further down the line. This was 5 days before my first anniversary, the first anniversary of my diagnosis. That's quite a story. It is, isn't it? How does it make you feel hearing about it, knowing it's going to be your story? I don't know. It's a lot to take in. You're right. It is a lot to take in. I'm not going to pretend all of it has been easy. It's still been a little less than 2 years since my diagnosis, and I don't pretend to have all the answers. I've had to do an awful lot of processing. There's still so much baggage attached to this health condition, possibly above all others. Some people think people who have HIV only have themselves to blame, and others treat you with fear or disgust, when the truth is it's just a health condition. All it needs is a way in. My friend's 17-year-old daughter said to me, "The virus doesn't discriminate, people do." She couldn't be more right. Does it ever stop? What? The fight? The struggle against prejudice? Probably not. I've always said I can't change the world, but I can do my best to make my little corner of it a little better. I can talk about my HIV story all the time. I drop it into conversation in every knitting class I ever teach. I think sometimes I shock people with how casually I talk about it. That's deliberate. I want to usualize it, to acclimatise people to hearing about it so that it doesn't become a word that people can't say out loud, like cancer or polio. I don't think I'll ever be that strong. What do you mean? What if I can't cope with hearing the news when it comes? What if I fall apart? Listen. Listen to me now. What I'm about to say to you is the most important gift I'll ever be able to give you. Everything that has ever happened to me has shaped me into the person that I am today. I'm the product of everything I have ever experienced, good or bad. I would not be who I am right now if even one single thing in my life had been different. You have a choice, Nathan. You always have a choice. You can choose to let life grind you down, to beat you into submission and leave you cowering in a corner, always blaming someone else for your life's misfortunes, always believing that you could have been something different, better, other, if it hadn't been for this happening or that happening or something else happening. Or you can stare life in the face and say, I will not let you destroy me. Don't hate your life for being difficult. Be grateful to it for presenting you with opportunities to learn and grow. I would not have the strength I have now if everything along the way had been easy. So yes, I am the product of everything that has ever happened to me. But I am the one who is responsible for the choices I make going forward. I'm responsible for being who I want to be in any given moment. I could have let my diagnosis ruin my life, yeah? Or rather, I could have chosen to believe that it had ruined my life. Again, choice. I could have retreated into the shell of my own stigma and closed myself off to the world around me, feeling that I was somehow spoiled, damaged, unworthy. Instead, I have chosen to welcome HIV into my life. I've chosen to be grateful that I've been given the opportunity to use my situation as a force for good. And yes, I'm well aware that that was another coping mechanism. If I can use my situation as a way to do good for other people, then I don't have to feel that it's all bad. But the net result is that it doesn't feel all bad. So who cares if it's a coping mechanism? Do you see what I'm trying to tell you?
No, I don't.
Do you want to know the most surprising thing about my diagnosis?
What?
The sense of relief.
Relief? Yes.
A friend of mine used to have an old saying pinned to the notice board in his kitchen. I always loved it, but I never truly understood it until that moment.
What did it say?
It said, pushing through fear is less frightening than living with it. All my life, I have been terrified of catching HIV, but instantly, I knew I never had to be frightened of hearing that news again. That crippling fear, put in place by the toppling tombstone and hammered home by all the bullies, taunts and jeers, had held me back in so many ways, and suddenly it was gone. Stand up to your fears and you may find they bring unexpected gifts.
It's all very well for you. You're so together, but I'm not like you. I'm just...
You're just what?
I'm
Go
just
on.
me. I'm just me and I'm not together at all. I'm just lots of little pieces and I don't know where any of them fit.
Yes, that's it. That's just the point. I'm not together at all. None of us are. We're all made up of little pieces, the pieces of the most fiendish jigsaw puzzle in the world. I may have managed to find where a few more pieces fit than you have, but that's simply because I've had more time to try, more time to make more mistakes.
So, I'm not really broken then?
You're not broken at all. You're just not finished.
So what happens next?
I'm afraid I can't tell you that.
That's not fair.
No, you're missing the point. No one can tell you what happens next. That's for you to decide. And you alone.
You're leaving then?
No, not exactly.
What does that mean?
I can't always be with you. But you will always be with me. That's how this works. Oh, and I want to thank you.
What for? What have I done?
You're the reason I'm the man I am today. And when I closed my eyes, I'd gone. After the disclosure forum was over, I walked Amanda to Euston Station so that she could get her train home. As we said goodbye and she turned to walk to her platform, I stopped her. I knew I couldn't let her go without asking her a really important question. It was a question I had never asked anyone else, and until that moment, I'm not sure I'd even known it was a question I needed to know the answer to. But there, that night, on the station concourse, with the blur from the crowds of strangers whirling past us, on all sides giving us a strange kind of privacy amongst the bustle, I turned to this strong, feisty, determined woman, her bright blue hair shining in the harsh lights, and I asked her the question I was suddenly burning to know the answer to. If you could wave a magic wand and take away your HIV tomorrow, would you do it? Without even an instant of hesitation, she replied firmly and defiantly, no. I've met too many wonderful people that I wouldn't have met, and done so many things incredible things that I would never have done as a direct result of having HIV. I couldn't possibly want a life without them. Her eyes burned into mine with such an intense fierceness. I held her gaze. Thank you, I said. Thank you so much. Hearing you say that is the last piece in the jigsaw that I've been waiting for. To allow me to realise I feel exactly the same. We hugged and she went on her way. You're not broken. You're just not finished. Will I lose my dignity? Will someone care? Will I wake tomorrow from